Joel Felsenstein, thank you so much for that intro video, brother. I cannot wait to see you on Friday. I get to see you not only in person for the second time, glad that you had a safe trip into the United States, but also thrilled that you're going to be playing on stage. So I get to hear you live doing your thing on the drums. So fantastic to see you, brother. And I cannot wait. Joe and I are excited to see you in Long Island. We've also tried to recruit a few people to come with us, and I am thrilled. Want to talk real quick before we get started and intro our guests. Want to talk about our three sponsors for tonight. Want to mention that our merchpage.com, Tisha and Ginger are fantastic. You can see I'm wearing Nic's Guiding Brilliant Writers t-shirt. We also have our t-shirts out, and they have been doing such a great job of getting us merch that we need. This is the first time that we've had our own t-shirts. Nic's out with hers. So cool to have it on, and my wife loves hers as well. But we love our merch page. Make sure that you check them out. And I got a little video for them before we go to the other two sponsors. Want to show you this now. Whether you're a nonprofit, church, school, or business, let ourmerchpage.com become an extension of your marketing team. They'll handle the design, sourcing, fulfillment, and management of your merchandise marketing needs so you can stay focused on what matters most, your business. Love them to death. Great to have them on board with us. Then, Guiding Brilliant Writers. I'm wearing the t-shirt. You're about to meet Nic. I'm going to bring her on stage in just 1 second. But Guiding Brilliant Writers has been a great partner of ours for so long. We met Nic in 2023 and have just really hit it off. We've had a great friendship, but I love what she's doing, and I love what we're going to be talking about tonight. And the books that she's put out, I've been fortunate enough to write with her as well. So very excited that Nic is one of our sponsors. And last but certainly not least, Jen Lynn, Uniqua New Beauty Norm. She has been with us since 2023 as well, has been a sponsor on and off for the shows that we've done and for some of the things that we have going on with our fundraisers. And our next fundraiser, October 10th, she's going to MC our second annual Feed for Good. So we're thrilled to have Jen Lynn on board with that. And so, without any further ado, let me bring Nic on the stage. Nic, welcome. And so glad to have you on here. Thank you so much for being a part of what we do. And yeah, it's great to
Absolutely.
have you here.
Thank you so much for having me and for that very warm welcome. So I have to hone in on two things before we start, which is one, Jason put me on to the ladies at our merch page. And yes, he's wearing the shirt and arrived just in time. I am blown away, seriously, by my experience with him. Extremely professional, efficient, love the quality of the shirts. And then I do have to give a shout out as well, I believe, to Joel Feinstein, is it? I don't know you yet, but I did receive a very nice invitation from somebody on screen with me, and I do hope to meet you there live on Friday as well. And then I get to meet Jason for the second time, which is so awesome.
Yay! My wife has only asked me like 20 times whether or not you and Marcos are going to go with us on Friday. So we're so stoked. That's awesome. That's awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, so you know what? I have your video, which I'm going to play later in the show that Aaron made for you. It's fantastic. It's a couple minutes long, but I want to talk to a couple of people first. So who do we want to bring up now, Nic?
Okay, so I actually would like to start by introducing you to Rachel Garnett. Um, Rachel, she has several diagnoses, but in her chapter, she focuses on her Lyme disease. And I find her story extremely interesting because of where she's located. It is not a disease that you typically hear of in her area. Rachel is also the founder of EAS, did I say correct?
You did.
AI. Um, and I always tease her, mercilessly, that when I do get on board with the AI, and I'm getting there, trust me, um, she's gonna have to be my hand holder. Um,
I
but
can't wait. And in time, whenever you're ready, no rush.
oh, I'm gonna have to get there. The rate at which this publishing company is growing. But Rachel, please, just thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you taking the time, and um, I'm gonna let Jason kick this off.
Yeah, as a person that's spent a considerable amount of time in Texas, when I heard your story and read part of your chapter, I was surprised and then not surprised all at the same time. So I was surprised at some of the things you went through, but having lived in Texas, I was like, oh yeah, I don't ever remember people really talking about Lyme disease. And so really honestly, one of the first things that we talked about that we were going to ask you is how long did it take to exacerbate the situation before you found out that you had Lyme disease?
So, I think I don't know when I got it. So at the time, I had an estate sales business. We were kind of known for doing estate sales on really large properties with multiple buildings, like maybe some hoarder situations, but nice stuff. So, tromping through tall grass and all of those things. And I am not a person that has I like bugs. I like spiders. I'm never really bothered by that. So when I had bites, I just forgot about them. Now, there was a time, and I don't know if this is when it happened, but we were on a property that was infested with brown recluse spiders. Like
Oh
you'd pull
wow.
a picture from the wall, and it was just, oh, it was just so crazy. Um, but I got a bite. Again, don't know if it was a it was not a brown recluse, but again, everything, my memory is so hazy due to the Lyme, but I do remember showing Matthew, my husband, a bite that I had that was, on my panty line, but it was a huge bullseye pattern.
Oh wow.
And nothing happened to it. It went away. I completely forgot about it. I mean, it was never back in my mind. So, over the course of some years, I was getting more tired, more exhausted. I thought that I thought that I was getting early onset dementia because I was having such, and I still do, having such a hard time with word recall. Or maybe I would be talking about gasoline and I would say the word muffin, and it was happened all the
Oh
time. I
wow.
was like, what is going on with me? And so, really, for me, having kids working, you just like push it down and keep going and don't pay attention to any of it. And so another thing that was really weird, and I don't know if this was related during this, couple years where I started, feeling this really chronic fatigue, the joint pain, the arthritis, such and such.
Yes.
I lived on candy. Now, it's important because sugar feeds the Lyme bacterias. That's what they eat. So it's craving it. I'm craving it. I'm feeding it. I'm making it worse. Didn't know. So kind of flash forward, I'm feeling bad. 2015, in December, I was doing an estate sale in Abilene, Texas, in West Texas. And I could not finish prepping the sale. I was so exhausted. I called my husband, who was in Fort Worth, just bawling. I don't know what to do. Like I'm not going to be finished. I can't turn my neck. And it was so devastating because that was my job. Thankfully, he came to help me. My best friend came and helped me finish up. And so by the time that sale was over, I drove back to Fort Worth. I got in bed and I really barely got out of bed until April. I mean, it was, I would try to take a bath and I didn't have the energy to get into the bathtub. I missed, the entire year of my kids. So, it just really did. Once it got bad, it really continued to get a lot worse really quickly. So I can't tell you how long I've had it. I'm in some different sort of support groups, and there are some people I know that have had it for 20 years and just start to have symptoms. So I think
Wow.
it's a very strange, weird bacteria. Um, so that's kind of, that's what happened. I will tell you that my dad was a retired physician at the time. He's now deceased. But I just remember, I think I was like trying to get in the bathtub. I was gross, y'all. And I like lost all my friends because I didn't know what was wrong with me. Nobody understood like why I wasn't talking to them, why I wasn't leaving the house. I had to let my staff go for my business. I mean, it was just the whole thing was so devastating and disrupting to every single thing that was important to me in my life, which was Matthew and my kids and my business and my staff. It was just all, it was all gone. I mean, just so suddenly. And I was so depressed and devastated. And I felt so guilty and ashamed because I couldn't explain what was wrong with me. And I'd go to the doctor and they'd say, well, you have the flu. I I would be admonished for not, having a flu shot. Well, I've never had the flu before. So they do a flu test. Well, you don't have flu. We don't know what's wrong with you. We'll send you home. And I ended up in the hospital. So I had just this tremendously high fever. We didn't know how high the fever was at the time. I had this fever
Wow.
for several days and not a thermometer in the house. We just don't get sick, right?
Yeah.
So I was hallucinating from this fever. And I remember Matthew trying to get me dressed, and I thought he was trying to kill me. It was like, what are you doing? He takes me to the emergency room. My fever is 106 degrees.
Whoa.
So by the time your fever is, you have that fever, I had like what they call Lyme meningitis. So I could not turn my neck. I could maybe turn it this much. And so that is really, it's like that's by that time the Lyme has gotten is broken into your brain barrier. And so that, it was the culmination of those couple things, the bacteria getting into my brain and this, really high fever that I had for a few days that, I have some brain damage. And it's, a lot of it is around, most of it right now is around word recall. Now, there are so many things from my past I don't remember. My long-term memory, it's just something I have to deal with. I do say this lovingly and jokingly that losing my memory was good in some ways because at that time, Matthew and I had been separated for about 6 months. And he moved back in to help take care of me, but I forgot all the reasons why I was pissed off at him. I still don't remember.
Oh,
So anyway, us whenever, we reconciled over me being sick, but we've like our marriage has been awesome for the past 10 years and I don't remember why before, but it wasn't. So that was, definitely a blessing
yeah.
that happened from that. But anywho, my dad was a retired physician and he called me one day and he said, "Baby, I think you've got Lyme disease." And it was just this aha moment. And I remembered the bite with the rash. And no one had ever asked me when I was in the hospital for 6 days one
Oh,
time.
wow.
I want to tell you the story just because it's funny. I don't want to talk too much for all the other people, but Matthew took me to the hospital. That's when I had the 106-degree fever. They put me in the emergency room. He goes home to take care of the boys. And, they've got me hooked up to an IV. I thought probably that they would just get me hydrated and send me home. So the nurse comes to me and he says, "Well, we think you've got meningitis." Okay. I don't have anybody to talk to about it. I'm there by myself. He leaves. He comes back. "You've got all this stuff with your liver. It's not meningitis. We think you have liver cancer."
What?
Why would you say that to someone?
Yeah.
And then, of course, I'm just there. I'm sick as a dog. I, you know, I really just don't even have any energy to react. He leaves. I mean, this is all true. He leaves. He comes back. you don't have liver cancer, you have hepatitis C. I mean, it was
Oh, good
just
grief.
such a crapshoot. And they would tell me that, I guess, before they would run the tests. So they ended up telling me that I couldn't go home. At this time, at this hospital, it was totally booked. They put me in a freaking storage closet with all of these monitors and, all of this stuff. They would forget to feed me. There was no place for my family to come sit, to come see me. And it was just really bizarre to be in this closet. And so I had to, for 5 days that I was there, I was in this emergency room because there was no space upstairs. And Matthew is just, he's just dealing with work and the boys. And that was, really a lot of my wheelhouse. And so he didn't know to move me to a different hospital or anything like that. So I'm just there in the closet and, I haven't brushed my teeth in days. I'd go into the emergency room bathroom and I remember there being blood on the floor and I've just got, my little socks and, they put a couple other people in my closet at different times. I mean, it was so funny. So anyway, the last night I was there, they moved me up to a room. And, I had kept meeting with the main doctor and then this like infectious disease specialist, I think. And all the questions are, have you been out of the country? What do you do? Never the mention of Lyme disease. I don't think ever the thought of Lyme disease. And so by the time they sent me home, they said, we don't know what's wrong with you. Hopefully you'll get better.
Wow.
And that was it.
Wow.
And so and I
Right.
think that was probably maybe February or March. And then when I heard from my dad was really into functional medicine and plant medicines. And so he, sent me a book by, the Dr. Bruner. I forget his last name, but he was really into, herbal practices and I will go back. And I think this was one of the questions, like, how have things in Texas changed? So between 2000 and 2020, they said that there were only like 85 cases of Lyme disease in Texas a year. Well, now the infectious disease people are saying it's probably more like, over that 20 years, there have been close to 20,000 cases. Things are, they're
That have been
underreported,
misdiagnosed.
misdiagnosed. It's very
Crazy.
hard to test for. So when I was doing testing, the first couple times it came out negative, and it's because the bacteria hide. They have this shell over them and they can hide, and they're very smart bacteria. So, there are like really sensitive tests that you need to do. It's all very expensive. And at that time, Lyme was also really, I don't know why, really political. I don't know why an illness would be political. So, I had, in my, Lyme, studies and people and whatnot, there were doctors who would prescribe more than the 2 weeks of antibiotics, which they said, even if you had long-term Lyme disease would cure you, which it doesn't. They would get their medical licenses taken away. I mean, people really trying to treat and help their patients. So, when I was sick, I found one Lyme literate doctor in North Texas. It was over $600 just to get an appointment to see him. And we had completely run out of money. We're a 2-income family. And so it was, through this Dr. Bruner, and there was another doctor. So he was plant medicines. There was another doctor who was integrative and functional medicines. And so my dad helped me put together this protocol of all this stuff that I did for a year. And, eventually started to feel better. We would have times that we called, like, I'm feeling limey, and would be in bed for 4 or 5 days. I haven't had limey days for, quite a while now. But I will say it's awesome because in Texas, things are changing. There are clinics and like special places that you can go now that do more than just that 2 weeks of antibiotics. We took our dog to the vet on Saturday for just, his checkup. They tested him for Lyme disease. Obviously, it's a thing. And so,
Wow.
UNT Health Science Center, which is here in Fort Worth, they're testing, ticks across the state
Yeah.
for Lyme disease. So I think it's a whole lot more prevalent than they're saying, but they're also more open to treatment than they were before. I don't think they're saying now that it's not, Lyme disease is not just imported, it's endemic here in Texas, is what they're saying now.
You've covered a lot of the questions that we were going to ask you, so kudos to that. But there is one thing that I want to kind of go through that you sort of touched on, but I just want to, for the audience, how do you manage now kind of your symptoms? You said, hey, I haven't felt limey in a little while, but how do you manage now some of the memory loss and the other things that happen because of this?
I don't. You know what? No, honestly, it's been, I will say this. My hands got like arthritic, and I had all these little nodules on my knuckles, and my fingers were starting to turn in from the Lyme disease. It was the weirdest thing. And all the joint pain, that's all gone.
Wow.
And, I can obviously turn my neck. All the joint pain's gone. I thought I was going to be in pain for the rest of my life. But for the memory loss, that long-term memory loss, there's just not a lot I can do. And it's just there. And I think it's been, quite a while now, almost a decade, that I've just learned to live with it. There are just things that I don't remember, but there are a lot of things that I do remember. And I do try to spend time. It's like with memories, I feel like a lot of times if I look at a picture, I can recall a memory, but I wouldn't be able to recall that memory without looking at the picture. But I think that can be the case with if you don't have brain damage in terms of your long-term memory, when we're looking at childhood memory. So I think really I just live with it. And again, good for my husband, he's fabulous. And, but it's disappointing because my kids will say, do you remember such and such? And I don't. And I used to just feel like an elephant. My memory used to be like an elephant. And so I think it's a real change in it's almost a change in personality that I've had to grow into. The word loss is also something that I've had to grow into. And if you didn't know me before, you would have no idea that I stumble and stutter around and forget words. Now, one of the good things is that I'm not saying the wrong word for another word anymore. That probably stopped maybe 8 years ago or so. Thank goodness. Golly.
Right?
Thank goodness, it's right.
What are you talking about?
You're so right, because I've gotten the chance to meet you and your husband prior to this show. And I would never have known until you wrote the chapter in the anthology. I would never have known. But I appreciate your story, and thank you so much for sharing with the audience. And as someone who's lived in that area, thank you for being a groundbreaker and like, hey, these are things that we need to look into now. And I'm sure that what you had to go through and you telling your story is opening up doors for other people. So thank you for that.
I hope so. Thank you so much. Because I don't hear a lot about Lyme outside of, these small Lyme circles. So I was really, really, thank you, Nic, for the opportunity.
Make sure you scan the QR code that's right above Nic's left shoulder. That will take you to get your copy of the book. And yes, right there. And I have a digital copy. And then again, I want to show this is for Nic's t-shirts. You can scan that QR code right in front of Rachel, and that will get you to Nic's Our Merch page, so you can get a copy of her t-shirts. Or not a copy, you get your own t-shirt. This is mine. You get your own. Thank you guys so much. And I see people have scanned the QR code. That's fantastic. Thank you for people in the audience doing that. Rachel, great to talk to you. We're going to bring you back down in green room. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, y'all.
We
Thank you
appreciate
so much. I love you guys. You're awesome. Thanks.
Thank you, Rachel.
Nick, how you feeling?
Yeah. You know, this is so much more than a book, you know. Um, and it's so much more than choosing to be more than our diagnosis. Um, what I hope people will understand is that there are strategies, there are management techniques, there's discussions about how a family and loved ones are affected, um, people that lived with and didn't even realize, people that were severely, like Rachel,
Yeah.
misdiagnosed, um, and just the whole. There's just so much packed
Yeah,
into these stories,
it's fantastic.
right? But and that's what I love about the writers having an opportunity to come and share, because people think they're just going to come and talk about their diagnosis. No, they actually talk about so much more than that. So greatly appreciate it. So I think we should
We're
bring
going to bring
Joshua
Josh
up
up.
next.
Okay. Joshua,
Yes, sir.
come on up.
I am thrilled to introduce everyone to Joshua. I had a fantastic opportunity to meet him actually through a friend that I care very much about. Her name is Carolyn Smith. Some people may be familiar with her and may not have been seeing much presence of her lately on LinkedIn, as somebody that was very active on both LinkedIn and Facebook. I am in touch with her. Um, she is going through a couple of things right now, but she introduced me to Josh. She brought Josh into this book actually. Um, and when I got the snapshot of his story, I was just blown away. I was like, you know, in his particular case, this was third party negligence that changed this man's life. In fact, not even changed his life, damn near cost him his life. So, Joshua, with that, I am saying no more. This, my friend, is all
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for that introduction.
Yeah, Joshua, so you're an executive recruiter in healthcare and IT, and
Ironically.
it's interesting that, or not interesting, it's almost it's really tragic that a third party was part of the severe carbon monoxide poisoning that resulted in you having a traumatic brain injury. And what, you know, the first question was, hey, by medical standards, you weren't supposed to survive from this, supposedly. So,
No.
how does that, I mean, how do you even, what does that make you feel like when you come back from something like that and now you're in a book writing about it? What does that bring up for you as far as emotions about being in that spot and now being able to tell your story?
Oh, geez. Honestly, it's an honest to God miracle. It really is. There's no sugarcoating it. It's a miracle. I wouldn't be here if God didn't intervene. I'd be gone. Really.
Oh,
I had mentioned it to Nick before. People die of carbon monoxide poisoning. In the between their health and how healthy they are, they die between 8 and 11%. By the time they drug
wow.
in the hospital and they did the tests and ran all the tests and did the math, that was well over 30%.
Wow.
Yeah, and the ER doctor kind of did the math by the time the fire department had found me and dragged me to the hospital, and they had assumed I was close to 40% carbon monoxide in my blood. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Why I'm here, it's just it's a miracle. I thank God every day.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
literally.
can I can
Yeah.
only imagine as a person of faith. I am I can only imagine the thoughts that you're going through, and yeah, I would be really in that same kind of boat and thinking that I'm here for a purpose. So I love that, and I love that you're grateful for it and that you're writing about it and you're telling you're on here and other shows telling your story and describing what's happened. Talk about an area of your life that's been impacted by this, if you don't mind.
What area of my life hasn't been impacted?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's top to bottom everything. I cannot say or emphasize enough how hard the entire journey was. Basically, I had to reinvent myself, and I had to get to the point in my life where I had to finally accept the fact that the old me, everything from the time I was born until the accident was gone, was dead, just no more. I had to accept that. And it wasn't until I accepted that that things finally started changing for me. But
Wow.
having to create a whole new life, a whole new me, relearning emotions, speech, simple things that we all take for granted, like tying your shoes, brushing your teeth, simple things like that, putting a belt on, all that I had to learn how to do all over again, everything. So if you think it, I had to learn how to do it all over again. Yeah.
It's incredible that you're here and that you're able to tell your story. So thank you very much for doing this
Oh,
and
you're
for
welcome.
sharing with other people, not only on here, but obviously in the book. And I want to call out again, over Nick's left shoulder, you can scan a copy of this international best-selling book. You'll be supporting the authors that you see here, like Joshua. And you know what? It's a great way for you to also learn lessons that they've learned through their experiences. So even if you don't have a diagnosis that mirrors any of the authors, it's a great way for you to see resilience and gratitude and other stories that they're telling. This is a little bit off topic, but I understand that you are an author outside of this. So I was hoping that maybe you could tell a little bit about that journey and how that's going for you.
Yeah, pre-accident, I had written 2 books, and that was challenging in itself. It really was.
Yeah.
The publishing world is not kind to new writers, but post-accident, I ended up writing 2 more books, which was the equivalent of me climbing Mount Everest.
Wow.
When I had to learn how to read again, how to write, how to write my name, how to do everything all over again. It was just a challenge that I just had to do. I wanted to do. I just could not, for the life of me, sit in a sofa 24/7 and expect to be spoon fed or have a diaper changed or something like that for the rest of my life. That's just not something I was willing to accept. I had to move on. And there was, I don't know. I have this fight in me. I had this fight in me that I did not want to live this way. That I wanted to be back to a relative normal, if you will. My life is not normal now. I live by a lot of routines, a lot of do-overs. I do everything the same way.
Yeah.
Every day I have to do that. I still have some, short-term memory problems, long-term memory problems. But granted, they are few, but I still live by a life of routines, daily routines. But yeah, the writing was just it was something that's always been in me. I enjoy doing it, and I wasn't about to give it up. On top of everything else in my life, I did not want to give it up. And that's one reason I just continued.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
curious. I'm curious if you feel that that's cathartic.
Yeah, there's so much. I mean, now with my new life, everything to me personally seems like a blessing. I don't know if that makes sense. For every morning that I make coffee, for me, it's a blessing. I'm just happy
Yeah.
that I can have that coffee. Every morning I wake up and I see my dog next to me in bed and he gets up, he wags his tail. To me, that's a blessing. Where most people kind of take it for granted or don't even think about it. They just go on about their lives. And for me, every day is just like a thank God moment. You know, a thank God moment. So there's nothing I take for granted anymore. And there's nothing that I don't look at every day and say, you know what, thank God for that. Thank God for that. Yeah, it's
I,
it's, it's interesting. Yeah, yeah.
I
If you've
love
never
that.
If you've never seen the movie Memento, I would challenge a lot of people out there to get it. Although the topics are slightly different, that's really what I lived in the beginning. I had to leave myself notes and pictures everywhere to remind me of who I was, what I was doing, just to do it all over again the next day,
Wow.
over and over and over, until I finally started to, retain all that. And lastly, I don't want to, take up a lot of time here, but I have to say that if it wasn't for my mother, who basically just, man, the money she spent to get me to hyperbaric chamber was just intense. And I don't know anybody out there, when you have a traumatic brain injury or any type of brain injury, even broken bones, cancer, hyperbaric chamber is huge, huge, huge. Yeah. But that's what really saved my life, was my mom just taking me to hyperbaric chamber treatment every single day for 2 hours a day. Yeah.
Wow.
Just pumping that oxygen in me.
I've seen, there are many athletes that use that, especially when they're trying to hyper recover. And so I've seen that, and I actually knew a guy years ago that was in the Atlanta area that was using it with autistic kids, and that was helping them. They were playing music, and their parents would get in to these chambers and play games with them so that they didn't feel so constrained or restricted. But there were a lot of studies done about how that was really impacting them and bringing them to a place where they were more verbal and they were able to do things that they hadn't done before. So I understand the tremendous impact that a hyperbaric chamber can have, and I know it can't be cheap. So kudos to your mom and for stepping up in that way. I know that's got to be huge for you.
Yeah,
so
in fact,
you could hear it in your voice.
Yeah,
you could hear it.
Yeah,
man.
In fact, everybody through LinkedIn, I get to meet a lot of people that have brain issues and stuff like that. So they always ask me, "How'd you do it? I mean, what happened? How did you get this far?" And I always tell them, "Look, get to hyperbaric chamber treatment. Get to the hyperbaric chamber treatment, and that is the number one best thing anyone with a brain injury can do." Really. Yeah.
Well, hey, thank you so much for telling part of your story, for writing in the book, and for being here today to answer our questions and talk to the audience. So I mean, I really appreciate you, and I thank you for being here.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
No. Thank you, Joshua.
Nic, it's that time. It's time. Before we bring on our final guest, it's time for me to bring this on. So this was created by Aaron, I believe, Aaron Gibson. But I love this, and I got you to send me a copy so people could see this in case they had missed it. I don't know how you could have missed it, but check this out.
No.
Whispers like a spell on my doom, but I've got a soul that can't diagnose. I've walked through fire and I'm still close to everything I'm meant to be, not just what they see. I'm not my diagnosis, I'm not their doubt. I've got a voice and I'm gonna shout. I've got dreams that won't be tamed, I've got joy they can't explain. So don't you write my story yet. I'm more than limits and regret. I'm still rising year by year. I'm not my diagnosis, I'm still here. Some days hurt, some days shine, but I've made peace with this heart of mine. I've got cracks, but they let light in. That's where the strength begins. No shame in being real, that's how I heal. I'm not my diagnosis, I'm not their doubt. I've got a voice and I'm gonna shout. I've got dreams that won't be tamed, I've got joy they can't explain. So looks different on everyone, and I'm proud of who I've become. I'm not my diagnosis, I'm more than pain, more than letters next to my name. I've got fire, I've got grace, I've got hope you can't erase. So don't you tell me who I am, I'm writing that with my own hand. I'm still singing loud and clear, I'm not my diagnosis, I'm still here. Yeah, I'm still here, and I'm not my diagnosis.
I love that so much. If you have not picked up this book yet, this international best-selling book, you need to scan that QR code, which now is above Nick on the left-hand side of your screen, or the right-hand side of my screen. Scan that QR code, get a copy of your book. I think the digital copy is something like $4.99. The physical copy is like $14.99. It is really inexpensive for what you're getting. And make sure, if you haven't seen this, this is Nick's teas. And I took a picture of myself because I was like, in the tea, but scan this QR code and you can go to Nick's shop and you can see all of her t-shirts, all of the merch from our merch page, one of our sponsors. And I am so excited for us to introduce our last guest of the evening. Nick, do you want to do the honors as I bring her up?
Absolutely. And I want to thank you for showing the video. Aaron's quite a visionary. And Crystal B wrote that beautiful song for us.
Yeah, it's
She's
fantastic.
also a co-author. Sandra, hello. So I would like everyone to meet Sandra Bote, mi amiga de Colombia. So Sandra and I actually met not very long ago. We formed such a quick friendship, and there's something that really grabbed onto me with her story. And I shared this with her. I have a friend who also in a very similar type situation. And I actually shared Sandra's story with her. And I let Sandra know this as well. And there was so much identity there. So Sandra is diagnosed with ADHD. But what's very interesting about her story is how it is she came about learning of her diagnosis. And I will leave that there. And I
Yeah,
will Jason to take over.
well, sure. I mean, just in looking at the questions and reading part of your chapter, obviously you found out about your diagnoses from your son. So, what did you find out that you had in common?
Yeah, no, thank you, and thank you for the invite to this show today. Jason, it's a pleasure. Um, about that first question, um, there was, yeah, it wasn't that obvious at the beginning, but when I start getting this, information from teachers, from my son teachers, about his behavior, I start learning more about ADHD, and and that's when I start reading a lot, and I start realizing that I have a lot of those behaviors, and I start feeling curious about my own, what I was doing. One of the things that we have in common was the nonlinear thinking, right? Our brains don't follow a straight path. An example, it's my son. If I send him to brush his teeth, he has all the intention to go to the bathroom and start, brushing his teeth, and ended up in the bathtub taking a bath. That is not supposed
Yeah,
to be doing that.
yeah,
In my case, I will go and do a trip to the kitchen just to bring a glass to the kitchen, and ended up start cooking or doing something that I wasn't gonna do at that moment. So it's just that kind of distraction and lack of focus, that we have in common. Emotional intensity is something that we have in similar. Um, but the intensity also means in both is that we care a lot about things. So we are very intense. Um, Daydreaming is something that, sometimes you see him just there, and his mind is just in thinking who knows what. Is the same thing that happens to me. And difficulty finishing a task if it's not something that is really exciting and very engaging to our brain, is very difficult to finish. But once we get engaged in that thing that is so excited, is also the opposite is true, that we find difficult to stop doing it. So it's very extreme, what happens. And sitting still, right, is another of the common things. I just remember myself, when I was in high school, I will try to sit down and finish my homework, but I will get up and go to the kitchen, get a snack, and come back, and it will take me long to really get to focus in doing my work. And it's the same thing with him. Until he finally focus, and it's usually when he knows that he's going to have a reward or something. So that's part of the system, and things that we find to help him focus. Has to be that way. So yeah, but yeah, we do have all these things in common.
You know, it's
Definitely.
it's funny because having being someone that my wife calls them nomas. She's from the south, so she calls it nomas, or those special qualities that make you who you are. But I have all the D's, is what I told her when we first met 26 years ago. And they didn't know what to do with you when you were in school. You would get in trouble. You get sent to the principal's office, the vice principal's office. You would, back in those days, this is how old I am, you could potentially get paddled. And I ended up getting on the track team because they got this brilliant idea to have me start running around the school just to get all that energy out. And the track coach sees me and says, "Who is that lunatic that just keeps doing laps around the school? I need him on the cross country team." And that's, it's like, here starts my sports career. I'm wondering how, as you were starting, you talked about this a little bit, how you, as you started to learn how to manage your son's ADHD, and what you can do to kind of focus him, and did you learn for yourself? Did any of those things that you learned to manage his ADHD, were you able to apply any of that yourself?
Yeah, it's funny what you mentioned, because one of the it just remind me, one of the first things when I started hearing from the teachers, and one of their suggestions was, he was, I think, in first grade, and the teacher recommend that I wake him up really early and take him to the track when it was no winter, right? Get him a dog and go walk the dog before the school, so that when he
Yeah,
gets to class, to school, he will be just, that energy will be a little bit settled down. But
yeah,
yeah, and in winter it's really hard to do that. But
yeah,
one of the things, and for me, it's just the systems. I really learned with him that, what I really learned with him is that my son, if you give him a lot of tasks at one time, he just get too overwhelmed, and he doesn't know what to do first.
Yes.
yeah.
So you have to give him one by one. And I realized that in my case, when I think about my day and all the things that I have to do, it kind of paralyzed me. Like, I don't know what to do first. So then when I organize, what I want to prioritize, is different, and I just close, emails, close apps and everything, and just focus in that thing that I want to finish. It's less overwhelming. I don't think about anything else but that thing. It requires discipline to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm not successful doing it, but that's when I decide to delete apps from my phone and that kind of, things that will help. But then I need to bring them back, so it is challenging.
I love that. I love that so much. My wife Jody will say, you're squirreling. She'll when I've lost track, like I walk into the kitchen and I can't remember why I've gone in there, and she's like, you're squirreling, and like try to help me remember, like what am I doing now? But have you found, anything that you would give advice to other parents that might help them with when they're dealing with themselves or their children that have ADHD?
Yeah, definitely. Just by observing, their kids' behaviors, um, and ask, if when is the behavior showing up, in what moment is showing up, if it's in different settings, at home, school, or in social situations, and what triggers that behavior. um, for example, like I mentioned before, when I give my son, when I wasn't very aware, and I just mentioned all the things that he needed to do. Hey, you need to shower, you need to do your bed, you need to do your homework. And I say all those things at the same time. It was
Mm.
just overwhelming for him, and I just didn't know. And one day he said to me, I just don't know what to do first. It's too much. Uh, so
Yeah.
I learned that from him, and also by reading. So yeah, when also just by observing when your child is at its best behavior, what is happening, right? It's just learning to know, by observing, um, when he seems so calm, so focused, and just observing that behavior just help you to I guess, regulate the situation at home with him, and trying to use those things to engage him in, when you need that engagement from him. So I think observing him is a good thing that I learned to do with my son. Um, Regulating emotions first, is just observe how he reacts to stress. Um, and again, the same example is when he's too overwhelmed, he can function, he cannot do
Yeah.
anything. So learn to regulate that, and really create a supportive system for him, with visual cues. He has in my refrigerator the schedule, and he knows that what things need to be done before he can get computer time. And the computer time is a system to reward him to get moving with the things that he needs to do before he gets to that. So it's just tricks that we use to do that, just to have a, I guess, what I mean is he needs to have a predictable routine, so that he
Yeah.
knows what needs to be done, because he forgets. He just don't remember what needs to be done for him to get privilege. So yeah, that is the advice. Just have a routine for him that help him through the day, and a lot of movement. Offer him, whenever it's possible, um, just that he can use that energy, have him in soccer or activities that will allow him to let all that energy out.
No, I love it. Look, I'm 60 and I'm still living by the same things. My whiteboard over here, my list, my routines that I have, and I get really out of whack. When those things are taken, when I'm taken out of that environment. So yeah, no, I appreciate that. Is there, when you're thinking about, schools have come so far, they've come a long way, and I think there's a lot of teachers now that and a lot of school systems that are really understanding more, and they're training their professionals to make sure that they're recognizing when students have special needs in some shape, form, or fashion, whatever that may look like. Do you encourage people that you speak with about going to the school system and just speaking to the schools about this? And how do you approach that, or would you approach that in that case?
Yeah, with the school, I actually sent information about my son, how he works best, so that he could maybe apply at school. And sometimes it helps, sometimes it didn't work because it's too different at home when he is by himself. He doesn't have siblings at home, so he doesn't have the distraction at school. One of the things I was told by the teacher is he is like the clown of the, he likes to make people laugh in the classroom and that type of thing, and has too many distractions. So, but I think with the school, the approach has been collaboration with them, just also asking them to observe him, and they were helping us with a report, because when we visit the doctor, we want to inform the doctor, how he's doing with his medicine, if he's really helping or not. And because he's growing, the medicine can stay the same dose, it has to change. So the school was good at giving us reports and setting up meetings, not only with the teacher but an entire team, where
Yeah.
yeah, where we were looking at different ways to keep him engaged in the classroom. So I'm very thankful for that support that they offered in the school, whether it is giving him a tool to put his feet or to play with his hands when he's in class, just to keep him, engaged. That kind of thing. So it was just a collaboration with them, just talking all the time, to see what things worked best for him. Um, Sometimes his medicine also creates a difficulty for him to go to bed early, and that means the next day at school is not going to be great. So um, they also give they have also a special, I guess, accommodation for kids with HDAD, where they allowed them a little more time for task, and yeah, and breaks for him to leave the classroom and walk the, the hallway and come back. Sometimes he will get lost, and they had to go and find him, but it's a lot of help. So yeah, and now really with his transition to middle school, they pass this information and already have us with the counselor in the middle school, who already knows, his profile, and we're gonna start working with him to do the helping with the organization in middle school that he knows is a big change for him now, changing classes, bringing the materials that are needed. That is going to be a little bit challenging, so we're preparing for that too.
Very good.
There is a lot
Well,
of help from it.
yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, and I'm sure as a parent, and then you finding out that you've got ADHD yourself, and learning how to relate to your child, but also to take care of yourself. So thank you for telling your part of the story, writing in the book, and being here today to communicate with the audience. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, one of the biggest lessons really with this is to learn patience, right? To be patient with him. At the beginning, really, I wasn't that patient because I didn't understand why you can just do what I'm asking you to do. But as you learn more and more about this disorder, uh, there's no choice to just learn to be patient, and even works better when you learn that patience. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Well, very
Thank
cool.
you so for the questions, and I think they were
Oh
great.
no, thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for taking time out of your evening. All of you that were on tonight, we appreciate it so much. And I'm going to bring you back down so I can talk to Nick for one last
Thank you.
second before we end the show. But thank you so much.
Gracias, amiga.
Well, Nick, you have quite a list of fantastic authors in this book. People, please make sure you scan that QR code, get your copy of the book. And as I've said before, grab your t-shirt. I will throw that up one more time for the audience. She has an amazing, this is not the only color, this is not the only style. And obviously, and Nick, you have a promotion about so tell everybody about your promotion that you're doing.
Absolutely. So we do have a very cool t-shirt. It's actually in support of the book, and it says, "You are more than your diagnosis." Um, so I really want to get this book into the hands of readers. You know, as you can tell just from these three guests here, just how vast their stories are, and just how much you're learning, even with Sandra as a parent, and being able to cope with something like ADHD, which is so rampant right now in our children. And that's just using one example. Um, I would like to make the offer that anyone that will post a picture of themselves with the book, and share a line or two about, what reading the stories in this book, has done for you, identified for you. I would like you to please send me the link on social media. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm everywhere. Send me that link so I can not only repost it and support you, but I want to give you a code so you can get $5 off of one of our shirts.
That's very cool.
Please wear it.
Very, very cool. Well, Nick, we have, it's been a blast talking to everybody tonight. Thank you to all the authors in the book, whether you were on the show tonight or you were on somebody else's show. I got to see Jackie. I've gotten to see several different shows with you on it and different authors. So I'm thrilled that we got to do this evening. But thank you to the audience. Thank you, everybody who came. And I saw a whole bunch of people in the group that came at one point or another. We appreciate you, and we appreciate those that are on other channels that I can't see here, and those that will watch the replay. So thank you so much. Nick, it's been great having you on the show. I can't wait to see you Friday. Joe, she's coming. Marcos and her are coming. So
Yeah. Thank you so much. I love to Jody. I'm sorry.
yes, yeah.
You.
Well, we will catch you guys all next time. Thank you so much for being here, and we will see you on the next show. Take care.